the gnostic, let's say, that parallels the myth of the matrix as intricately as the gnostic myth, both in respect to the human problem that humans face as well as to the solution. So, you know, the wisdom, Sophia, again, I won't go into details, you know, wisdom was in trouble at one time. But wisdom was in a predicament. And wisdom became unwise in a certain sense and created an archon, a demiurge, who then became our captor. Okay? What does the Matrix say? The Matrix says that humans became so smart, wisdom, cleverness, they became so smart that they created very, very powerful technology, technological beings, computers, robots, whatever you want to call them, and they then turned on them and enslaved them. So wisdom, cleverness, can become too clever for its own good, and then may create its own afflictors, its own jailers. An ancient Gnostic motive that comes back to us in the Matrix. In fact, Morpheus, explains it, puts it in the 21st century, in fact. So if this is going to happen, it's going to happen in this century, see? Early in the 21st century, says Morpheus, all of mankind was united in celebration. We marveled at our own magnificence as we gave birth to the artificial intelligence. And then this artificial intelligence turned on our intelligence. This offspring of ours then became the troublemaker. As a singular, again, Morpheus describes the artificial intelligence as a singular consciousness that spawned an entire race of machines. See, that's how it came about. And they then created the Matrix, a computer simulation that is a prison for your mind, says Morpheus. So it's our mind that is imprisoned much more than our bodies. Again, a very Gnostic allusion, you know. It's in the mind that the trouble lies. See, the mind looks in two directions. The ancients knew this. And the god Janus was probably a good example of it with his two faces. One of them looks outside, the other one looks that way, the other one looks this way. So when the mind is made to look in the wrong direction, then it is enslaved by extroversion, by the external thing. Just like in the Gnostic texts, the fundamental human problem is described in metaphorical terms of blindness, sleep, ignorance, dreams and darkness, stumbling around in the fog and things like that. And the solution is stated in terms of seeing, waking, knowledge, namely gnosis, waking from dreams, dissolving the fog and the light of day and things like that. So in the film Morpheus, who of course is taken from the Greek god of sleep and dreams, reveals to Neo that the Matrix is a computer-generated dream world. When Neo is unplugged and awakens for the first time on the ship Nebuchadnezzar in a brightly lit white space, his eyes hurt, as Morpheus explains, because he has never used them. He has never looked into the light. He has lived in the dark, like a mole. You ever seen those little moles? You know, they're very nice, shiny fur that is if you kill a lot of them, you can make into a very nice fur coat. You see, I don't object to that at all. But when you get the little moles, they're sort of like gophers and all of that, and they'll eat up the roots of your plants and everything. They're dreadful pests. But when when they come to the surface, they're blind. They have these little bitty swollen up piggy eyes, and they don't see because they're always underneath the ground. So that's kind of the way we are and the way Neo is until he comes to the brightness of the ship of light. Somebody used that term before, and it was the Gnostic prophet Mani who said that it's on the ships, like Nebuchadnezzar and the others, that you travel to Zion, which would be the where the seeds of light are gathered. You see, so there are terrific similarities, and for that matter, there are also ships in Tolkien. Who take people away from Middle Earth to the blessed land. There are numerous of these things. Now, not only does the hero Neo learn and pass on secret knowledge that really saves, that's the salvific knowledge, in good Gnostic fashion, but the way in which he learns also evokes some echoes of earlier traditions. Imbued with images from various traditions, the training programs teach Neo the concept of stillness, of freeing the mind and overcoming fear, cinematically captured in bullet time, which is quite an interesting notion. So interestingly enough, this concept of stillness is also present in Gnosticism and in Buddhism. The higher aeons are equated with stillness, with rest. And if you look into, let's say, the meditative disciplines of Buddhism, and certainly also Hinduism and so forth, what is it? What does Shankara want to do in the yoga, in Patanjali, in the Yoga Sutras, is to quiet down the wild activity of the mind, so that in that stillness one may then recognize the way things really are. Because as long as this machine runs, it's like a matrix. It keeps you captive. So the stillness has a lot to do with escaping from that activity. And there are many Gnostic scriptures that give very good testimony of that. But our time is moving along. So summing up this theme, we might say, I think with some degree of accuracy, that the myth portrayed in the Matrix and continued in Matrix Reloaded parallels the Gnostic myth in many respects. The language is similar: dreaming versus waking, blindness versus seeing, light versus dark. On the other hand, there are no doubt elements which bear the stamp of modernity and even post-modernity, with a decided non-supernatural overtones of these modes of thought. We have to remember that ever since the Enlightenment, we have been moving away from a transcendental orientation. And that is how, let's say, our society ends up being the kind of secular-oriented society that it is. Our educational institutions and everything else. Now, I am the last one to deny that there were good reasons for moving in that direction. But I think we are also paying a heavy penalty for all of that. Because first of all, if the sane mainstream or the almost sane mainstream. All people are crazy to some degree, or the other, ourselves included. At least I speak for myself. I won't speak for you, and so on. But if the almost sane mainstream would have more of a transcendental orientation than it does in our culture, then the almost insane, and in some cases insane, religious element, the fundamentalist element, the religious fringe of society would have first of all, less of an excuse for doing what it does, and secondly, it would have less power. The secularism of the mainstream of our culture empowers the religious extremists.